Fire.
So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring up a couple rules that I've kind of seen that I think are worth talking about. Like those that have read the rules, just talk back and forth about it. And anyone else that has maybe rules that you think are important or have a question about, you can go ahead and ask that. And I've got the manual here. I might already know it. Someone else here might already know it. We'll just go from there. So, one of my first ones is the 20-inch radius. Everyone knows about that. I think that's pretty big this year because you can, let's say your robot starts 28 inches by 28 inches. That would be exactly 112 inches. I'd recommend going a little smaller than that if you were to make a square robot so you have a little space. But you can make your robot extend out to, in all reality, a 68 by 68 machine from that. Now, is that necessary? I don't know. That's getting more into strategy. But keeping in mind that extension, you can have a lot of room to catch the ball, a lot more room to maybe block other robots out. Has anyone else thought about that rule at all? What effects it could have?
It also has the implication that if necessary, you could hold the ball outside of your robot and launch it from outside of your robot.
Yes.
We were talking about having a flat piece go down over the bumpers and use two arms to grab onto it and use that as your catapult and free it to move inside the machine.
Yep.
Understand that anything that's outside the bumpers is liable to be hit by another robot.
This is true. Yeah. So anything that you're putting outside, you're going to have to pay a little closer attention to where it's sitting if you're getting into an impact situation, or how structurally sound you build it to withstand impact. Yeah, being able to go outside the robot I think is going to be a big difference in machines this year. No one that blocking the ball on defense. What is, I believe it's rule G12, says what you're allowed to do with your opponent's ball. So let's say, let me pull up the rule here so I can actually read it. Maybe. G12. So you can't carry the opponent's ball, hurt the opponent's ball, launch the opponent's ball, or trap the opponent's ball. And the way the manual defines launching is impelling balls to a desired location and direction. So is getting in the way of the ball and kind of deflecting it off your machine, would that be counted as launching?
In the game animation, I've shown and like as long as you're not running into it, it seemed like the game animation was saying this is okay. Which they might modify.
Does anyone have any other opinions on that?
I think it will be mostly, for the competition will be mostly British discussion.
It'd be really important when at a robot driver's meeting, find out what the judges think or referees think that's going to be, because at what point does it become intentional deflection? At what point of it is just you're playing the game, the ball's in the play. And
I think if you hit it once, you're fine. Repeatedly,
yeah, but the referees obviously going to, their version, that's going to be the final version. So that's going to be something important to understand what they think the rule says. Yeah.
Can we post the question on the forum to get some more clarification?
Yes, that's right.
Said, as going this point forward, get some strategy going of, if you're going that route. I got one more other question is, this is by the way, Manny Patel from Peace to Ridge. Everybody's been focused on shooting and intake. Has anybody really thought about defense strategies? Was anybody really going as a defense strategy in addition to, shooting and the intakes? We clearly haven't really thought about it. We were so focused, just like you all, more on the shooting on the intake. How important it is, and
you see there's nothing to slow robots down, and there's no rules against hitting robots. So this is going to be a game for robots.
build a robust field, that you will see defense out on the field. You will see some pretty rough defense out on the field.
You mind the rule, one of the big rules on defense is pinning. You can pin for 5 seconds. After that, it is a foul. Pinning would be defined as if I was...
Same as Vex rules, right, yeah.
If I was up against this wall and someone came and was pushing me here, that's pinning. Also no blockading the field, though that's pretty common.
Question. I'm not sure. I saw this rule last year, but I didn't ever get a clarification. It says that it's considered pinned until you're 3 feet away from the robot. It's either 3 feet or 6 feet. Does that mean if you're not all the way away within that 5 seconds that you get the penalty?
You just need to release the pin. You just need to release the pin, and then if the count restarts, once you're 6 feet away and you've left them free for 3 seconds, at that point you can then go back and
Then
try
go
it.
back again, right. Once you're backed off, then the count stops.
Right.
Any other discussion on defense rules? Anyone have questions? Alright, here's a big one. This is more the game itself. Is a possession for an assist during a count during autonomous? So could you get the assist bonus during autonomous, or if, let's say, a robot started in one in one zone holding the ball, then that ball hadn't been scored when teleop started, would the assist points count for that? I actually just thought of that this morning, so I haven't found it in the rules yet.
That was actually a rule update. They were saying that the points only for assists and things like that, when you start counting after you guys on this work, balls are scored. So after what?
There we go. Like I said, someone's gonna know better than me. I guess kind of on that, you know, it's that trust.
Yeah, they're saying that things like the truss and catch and all that sort of stuff. The only thing you can do on top of this is get the goal points for it. And you can't start the cycle until all the autonomous balls are scored.
Alright, well, who else has something? Who's been looking at the rules and has a question or is thinking something is important? Just, you know, toss it around.
G14. Strategies aimed solely at 14 is putting on life to violate the rules. I feel like some teams did that last year by pushing other robots into the opposing pyramid and collecting that bonus. And I don't know how well that's going to be enforced this year.
There's another rule that said that was exclusive of that rule, right? Well, that was one of the rule, it didn't matter what was happening last year, I'm talking about this year. The rules are different.
This year, there's a rule, I forget which one it is, that specifically says that strategies that involve making the other lots commit a foul, that file will be charged.
Yeah, it was G14.
You get on that.
Is there anywhere on the field where that? I definitely saw the issue last year, plenty. Is there anything like that this year on the field?
The two that I saw that could happen with that is robots either throwing their ball into another alliance's robot, or it mentioned breaking the boundary on breaking the field, the plane of the goal zone goals with an extrusion of some sort.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that logo maybe being a little bit like the pyramids from last year. Maybe. Yeah. Don't do that. I didn't see that last year. We definitely got rammed into the pyramid a few times, didn't we, Alec?
And a lot of time goes down back to, one of the mentors said, a lot of time the referees, how much leeway they will give you. Just like, I'm a soccer referee as well, and I do VEX. I've been doing VEX for about 5 years now. And it's what the parameters you're going to set. And the team's going to watch for it. They're going to see how much the referee is going to allow, and then kind of and accordingly adjust the strategy as well.
Yeah, driver meeting with the refs before the competition is important to get some of these questions out of the way, see what the refs are going to allow. Especially competition. I don't know how many people here are competing in multiple competition, multiple regionals. You know, if you see a different ref there, they could be zone slightly different.
I'm curious about that. How many of your teams are going to two regions? So where are you guys going?
We're heading to Palmetto and Peachtree.
Oh, good. We'll see you there. You guys are going, I know, to Palmetto and Bayou.
Bayou, okay.
Where are you guys going?
Dallas and Atlanta, okay.
We're gonna go to Peachtree, Arkansas.
I mean, definitely, you know, obviously everybody knows by going to 2 or more, you're just increasing your chances. So, you know, the teams that haven't considered it, I would strongly encourage them to look at if it's possible financially and everything else to do at least 2. It just increases your chances.
A lot of work to build a robot that only compete 9 times.
Yep.
Or, okay, maybe you make it into the finals, but still, not that many.
Yep.
What else? Oh, the rules aren't too complicated this year, right?
You said, Frank, you were saying there's an update about the number of balls that can be on the field?
Yes. There was concern that if you had a robot go dead, the ball in it, you lost your ability to score. Okay, they've updated that. Now, if a robot dies with the ball, you're able to clear one time a dead ball, so that you can say that robot's dead, that ball's dead, and they'll start the cycle with a new ball. The trust points, the catch points will carry over. All the assist points will go away.
Do they like, at least take that robot out for the rest of the game?
No, the robot will stay wherever it is, and the ball will stay, wherever it is.
With that robot.
But could that robot be then, like, later in the game if, like, let's say they had a communications
Well,
problem?
say it's a temporary thing, they can control back to the robot. That ball can't be scored. It's counted as field debris, and I guess.
No, it's not. That ball can be scored, but no new cycles can start until all the balls are off the field.
No, you weren't listening.
No, that's for,
Have you read the update?
yes, I read the update.
Okay, so
The update allows you to score that ball.
We're not. When you declare a dead ball, the ball's dead, and you start a new cycle. You get a new ball. Okay. So I mean that ball is no longer scored.
So drive teams are going to have to watch for that, kind of make a decision pretty quick.
Oh, why don't you pull the update? You pull the update up.
Wi-Fi here.
Anybody here have Wi-Fi or anything?
Bryce, can you pull it?
robotics and we're going to use that for a second.
Okay. I'll get that up in a second.
I would secure that.
See, everyone has to.
While we're doing that, I'm just wondering, how are they going to keep track of all this assist? It's hard. I mean, I'm being a referee at the WEX, I know it's hard to just keep on track of other stuff, but just...
I think what it is you're only running one ball at a time. And basically, you just, they'll probably have a pad where whenever they see an assist, they'll count it.
Right.
And then the computer will probably have algorithms that will figure out all the little permutations and score it the correct way. I mean, that's purely simple.
That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so the only thing the referee's got to do is say, okay, that robot assists, and because you see the little score matrix, so that's, they'll show you the assist of each robot has.
Right, as it's happening, okay.
And so it's like, and then, the scoring thing will calculate, so as things change,
Right.
What zone you get credit for will change.
If an Alliance ball becomes stuck in an Alliance's robot, the Alliance may signal to the head referee that the ball is dead, which specifics regarding that signaling process are yet to be determined. At this point, the head referee will suspend the cycle, trust and catch points are maintained, assists are voided, and re-illuminate the pedestal, beginning another cycle for that Alliance. If the dead ball is freed, that ball must be removed from the field through one of the Alliance's goals or by passing it to an alliance human player before the alliance can earn any more points. Each alliance is allowed to indicate that only one ball is dead per match. So hopefully robots don't get stuck with balls inside of them multiple times.
That's a dead ball.
Yeah.
Once the dead ball's gonna come out, basically.
Yeah,
right?
so that ball, if it gets stuck in the robot, it can never be scored. It has to somehow exit the field. So hopefully,
So how can the human player get the ball from the robot?
so I guess if it came loose,
Well,
someone
that
could pick it up and toss it
one
over
time,
to the side.
I guess the robot would be able to get, well, actually, there's no
No, I'm
robot.
asking the drive times.
You can pass the ball to a human player.
Yeah.
So if I just move the robot over here, can the human player reach over and grab it?
No, they can't reach over the goal.
They cannot reach over the goal.
Reach over the wall.
If the robot and the human player can't touch the ball at the same time, you get a technical foul.
Those are bad.
But a robot can like pass it to the human player.
So here's a question. What if there are two dead robots?
You're only getting 10 points per run.
What if there are two dead robots? We've never seen that before. So what if there are two dead robots? What happens? On one alliance.
If they both have balls, then you wouldn't be able to score anymore unless the ball came free.
Guess you're playing defense and trying to minimize damage?
Yeah.
Getting some driver practice?
Or you can say, you know, this one's dead, other one's not dead.
No, once it's dead, it's not always.
Well, you have to signal to the referee if it's a dead ball or not.
Is there a ball in it or not?
Right. Let's say there's a ball in it. Let's say there's a ball in it.
Two robots are being...
So there's a disaster scenario out there where you get a dead ball twice in one match.
The second time it happened,
That's right. That's right.
One robot dies to the ball, and you
But at this point, I think the alliance got to talk. Okay, you know, I've got a better shot of. Let's call this one as a dead one, and let's use the other one as a defense robot.
unless the ball comes free. Unless the ball comes free. That's too many people talking. You have to wait for that one ball to get free. You get some random alliance to get the ball.
There are two more elements to this rule that I haven't gotten to yet. So there's two more elements to this update. If an alliance's ball becomes stuck in an opposing alliance's robot, the head referee will signal for an extended infraction of G12. The assumption is that the alliance has already been penalized for the initial G12. That's the possessing the other opponent's ball. At this point, the head referee will suspend the current cycle and re-illuminate the pedestal, beginning another cycle for that alliance. If the stuck ball is freed, that ball will be considered field debris. Additionally, if a ball becomes stuck on the truss, the head referee will shake the truss to free the ball in this situation. The alliance will not earn truss points while shaking the truss. The head referee will take care not to impact gameplay of the other alliance. So I guess it's kind of like a jump ball in basketball. Nothing actually shake. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. I haven't actually done that.
The actual truss, I think they're talking about 200 pounds, something on either side.
Yeah, but the ref's got to start shaking at it.
Well, just because there's no pounds on the side, that's down. It's not
Okay. That extension of the G12, if an opponent's ball gets stuck in the robot, that'll be a red card. Don't want those.
It's a little bit like soccer here, when you got a penalty if the soccer ball went underneath your robot. And talking about the ref thing again, remember the first week, they were racking up tons of penalties, and then they finally decided, well, it's okay, we're going to let the balls go underneath. They changed
the rules, right? Yeah.
It wasn't as much.
Racking up that many penalties, right? Yep.
All right, so you had a question. Alright, so okay, so say, is it legal to knock the opponent has a ball and legal to knock that ball out of the opponent's grasp.
So, I haven't seen a rule that says that would be a good Q&A.
It is not specifically prohibited in the rules anywhere that I can think of.
So we're saying by hitting hard enough, that certainly is not, I mean, that's the, if you
About grabbing the ball, taking it out of the way.
It's a defense strategy.
Should build a grappling hook.
As long as you don't get entangled, I mean, that's what you got to watch for. If you get entangled, then obviously you got a penalty looking at it, you know.
Also, if your apparatus hits the inside of another robot's bumper, that's a felony. So that's, so you have things that flop out and stay out, you need to watch that because you can't hit the inside of the frame of the other robot. That's a felony damage to the robot. I think it's a red bar technically. Yeah, entanglement. Well, just contacting the felony.
It's another level.
Contact inside the bumper zone.
Inside the
Yeah, inside, in other words, if you reach inside the bumper zone, your robot, you'll get penalty.
Well, but you got these pedals hanging out, right?
Can I pay
Attention, anything that hangs outside your robot, carrying your contact inside theirs, will get chances for penalty, so.
Then you can knock it off potentially also.
I think we've got about 5 more minutes for reviews. Any other big ones that people want to discuss? Westminster, we're going to come up and talk strategy next. Love to hear what you guys have to say.
Somebody's got.
Sorry, buzzer beater.
Whenever I was in the release session at kickoff, they said that, it said the ball was considered a score when the backside of the ball traverses that plane. So there was they said they would probably post it on the Q&A. The general assumption was that the ball had to be scored while it was hot, so into the goal while it was hot.
But in things like basketball, as soon as the ball got hit or not, it was until it was scored, it was it could be scored, it couldn't not. So we shot one and then Thomas made it. So we still got Thomas points for that. So that's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
That's a good Q&A.
That's a good Q&A question. I don't think it's clarified yet. But that's a question to put up,
Joel, it's you.
thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to let you guys know a couple more opportunities that we're going to be offering this season, because like Mr. Bassett has said, this season, especially with the new game, the cooperative game, is about us working together and getting farther than we ever have before. And while Walton has this wonderful field that we can use, there are a lot of other things that, one team can't do everything, so we're going to try to help you guys out as much as we can. So what we're going to do this season is we're actually offering a little convention for business teams in 2 weeks, which is called BizCon. I thought it was clever. And what it's going to be is it's going to be at Westminster, and we're going to be working with Walton and the Rebel Alliance to kind of help you guys out, point you guys in the right directions, what a good business team should be, and what your submissions for this year should hopefully look like. And then later in the season, whenever you guys need, we'll be offering actual visitation days in our workshop. So on Saturdays, if your team needs to machine something and you don't have the resources, maybe you can come down and hopefully work in our shop along with us and get some help there. And then we're also going to offer so many things, as sort of business consulting, so you guys can Skype us or come down to Westminster whenever you need, and we'll be helping you read over your chairman's submissions, whatever you really need for this season. You should get emails about those in the next couple of days. We sent it to Georgia First. Georgia First is distributing it, but just wanted to let you guys know what's coming up this season. I'll get started.
Thank you. Yeah. So the first thing we sort of want to talk about is, we want to talk about sort of the things that we have to do during this game. What?
My name is Bo.
This is Bo.
That's Josh.
American.
Hi. I'm the guy who's going to talk for the first part. That's how I saw it. Anyway, so the first thing I sort of want to talk about is what do we want the robots to do during this game? So what's the whole point of all this? Why are we here? And so, really, I guess the first part of the strategy I sort of want to do is sort of outline with y'all priorities that we sort of have, and sort of go from there to figure out sort of our best ways to meet those priorities and sort of meet our goals and do good. So, I guess the most important thing about this game, obviously, is scoring points. And so, the best way to do that, of course, is shooting to the goals. So that brings up the question: do you shoot to the high goal or do you shoot to the low goal? Do you spend time doing assists? Do you do 3 assists, or do you go straight for the goal and do 1 assist and abandon all assists? Do you go for the trust? Do you catch the trust? Do you not worry about any of this and have a team of 3 robots playing defense because 0 points is good? All these things are very important questions. And so I sort of wanted to open the floor a bit to any questions that anyone thought was the most pressing concerns about the game, sort of what they thought was the most important part of the game and what they wanted to focus on the most. Any suggestions?
Well, an important factor is assists and being in interplay with other robots.
Definitely. At least that helps you with your ranking.
Right.
It's going to help in the ranking, of course, right? Yeah, it's going to play big into the ranking. Assists are going to play big in ranking. So that has to be a part of your strategy. Whether it's just a minimum of 1 assist, got to be there.
Right. So, like we sort of touched on, assists are actually a very big part of the game this year. If some of y'all were around here for 2012, you might have noticed that in-game, when you bounce on the cooperation bridge, you actually got 2 points that were worth as much as if you had just won that match to your ranking score. Assists are worth, I don't think the same amount, but a similar amount this year. So assists are actually a very key part of the game. So gearing your robot to assist might actually help you a lot. That's something that we sort of found.
I think assists are the second tiebreaker.
First tiebreaker.
It's a first tiebreaker, actually. Yep.
And looking at game strategy, what you really need to look at is how many points you can score in how much time. The fact of the matter is that the assists are a bonus to your scoring. However, they take time.
Right.
So you need to look at whether or not it's valuable to do that assist or just go and score. Okay? It's the same thing with tossing it over the truss. You toss it over the truss, you get 10 points, but there's going to be a time frame for catching that ball or for catching up to that ball that's bouncing in the field. Okay, so game strategy says that you look at points per second or points per minute or whatever, not just how many points a particular item scores, but how long it takes for you to do that. Okay, if you want to go for assist, then you need to make sure that you can load and unload out of your robot fast. If you want to go for the truss, you want to make sure that you can toss it over and either catch it yourself or make sure it's very easy to catch for your alliance partner. Same thing with how fast you can score into the top goal. If it takes you 2 or 3 shots to score into the top goal, it might be more efficient for you to just push it in the low goal and get your assist points. It's all about points per second or points per minute, not necessarily how much each.
The question is exactly what it is that exists. Is this just bouncing off a robot? You know, can you flex off a dead robot and get an assist to that robot, if it's going in the direction you want it to go?
What we thought about is that it's all about intent in this game. So if the robot is intentionally pushing or handling the ball, then that's counted as an assist, which makes it very
again, that's pretty good. That's pretty fast. If you shoot it to a robot, that robot pushes it. That's like, it's probably the fastest way to get the ball down the field.
What's the definition of this?
If you get a possession. Clear in the rules. I don't know if you wanted to say what about
I'm actually very specific on G12.
Right. Well, it's a fucking ball and then direction in possession. So he said, at what point is it just an accidental reflection, and at what point is it possession? That's going to be a key question.
Something over that, doing that during the driver's meeting.
And something that we found that was pretty important to us is that all these assists and trust and catch, none of it counts until you actually score the ball. So scoring the ball is almost always paramount, and you always want to make sure you actually manage to get it in there, even if it's just a little. Because you still get the points. You'll still get 10 points or 28 points for, depending on how many assists you get for every assist, so long as the ball's actually scored. So that's also something you've got to keep in mind. We found.
The definition for possess is to carry or launch or trap the ball. So
Subverting counts.
subverting does count.
You might just have to touch it twice, and that might just count as hurting itself.
Just directed, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't there an extension?
Well, hurting says, the definition of hurting says
The definition of
pushing
hurting
multiple
is
times.
repeated pushing.
Repeated pushing.
So one bump does not count.
Could be two, yes.
And last time I read them, I thought that it said it referenced bulldozing and deflecting right under that rule.
Yeah.
That was for on the defensive side of possession for the G12.
And we've been talking about a lot of hypothetical situations, but I think the most important key here is that this requires a lot of coordination. When you have a 2-minute and 30-second match, you're going to want to talk to your team beforehand. Maybe have a playbook or have everything thought out and say, all right, well, this is maybe the best configuration for this team who can shoot and 2 who can defend. So it's going to take a lot of planning beforehand. You don't want to go into this without having come up with a strategy.
And also keep that in mind, you got 3 other robots opposing alliance on the field as well. You could be practicing on your own, you could have a perfect assist, and all of a sudden it doesn't work. So that's another thing to account for. But you're right, it requires a careful plan, a lot more than has been in the previous years. Yeah. And the point that you make is also good. You got a set amount of time. So the score points, score per minute or per second, whichever you look at, is also equally important. And then also assist it carries a good weight in the overall scheme. So it really, this year, I think it's a little bit, the game is simple, because really if you look at it, the game is simple, the rules are simple, but I think it's more about strategy this year. So your strategy is very important.
In the past, in terms of our scouting, you mentioned the scouting and getting strategy of their teams. In the past, our scouting leagues has focused very much on sitting in the stands, watching what the teams can do, which is important, because if they say they can catch or hurt and they can't, it's a big deal. But also developing a gameplay strategy with other teams is something that we've never spent as much time on. We haven't spent as much time on in the past because you didn't have to do as much of that in previous games. And so having enough team players that know the drive plan well enough, but are able to spend some time meeting up with alliance partners before matches is going to be key.
And I think instead of maybe meeting up, I think if you know your alliance partner before you even see them, based on scouting, I think that could be
Big help.
Yeah.
Big help.
So to know where someone's going to be.
With this facility, if the robots are ready, we all can get together at least hopefully a couple of weeks before the tournament and practice some of what we put it on paper. You all know what you put on paper never ends up what it is, And I think we can take advantage of this field that's been offered to Walton and kind of not only put the strategy up front, but play it out and see how it works in real world,
I think what's another important thing to think about is, I'm going to word this very carefully, assists are important. That's what breaks your ties, it helps with the seeding. But do not design your robot relying on those assists. There's talk on Chief Delphi about some people building catcher robots. They're just going to catch and release. But then your game strategy is completely rely on your opposing teams. Right. You can't always do that. Things happen. Robots break. You got to be able to do it yourself if the need comes be. So, it's all about risk mitigation. Look at the risks. If it's, we're talking about cycle times, it may be worth just passing from the far zone all the way up. Instead of stopping it in the middle, getting another robot, lining it up, and doing the repeated bumping method to get it into the third, it may be faster just to hit it. Because remember, after the ball is scored, I believe, until that ball score is completely in the system, they will not release another ball. So that could be 1 second, that could be 5 seconds.
I think it's once the ball clears the goal, that they'll release the next ball. That's one thing.
Is it?
And that's one thing that makes sense.
Still got to clear all the way up to here, and
And also, I think the scoring is going to be pretty automatic. The referee's going to be marking down, the judge will be marking down the assistance they have. So when the ball goes through there, you just press a button, score.
And release the ball, right.
Yeah, it releases the ball and adding the whole thing, clears the trust, all that.
And the one way to think, just kind of elaborate further on what you thought, is you can assume that your alliance partner is dead. If we got our two robots, how are we going to maximize the score? Are we going to assist, go over the bridge, pick up and score? Or are we going to assist, go over the bridge and just put in the logo to save time if that happens? That's got to be all, you have to assume the worst case. And we all know from experience, halfway through it, the robot will die or just not do what it's supposed to do. So then you got to have a strategy. If that happens, what are we going to change our game plan? I mean, it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds is all you got, and you don't have a whole lot of time to think, so.
And then your coaches that are in the back are gonna have to watch for things like that and be able to instruct your drivers that the strategy has now changed.
Right.
Because something happened on the field.
Right.
Okay? And it may be something like, all of a sudden you realize that one of the bots out there is a very good defensive bot.
Right.
So you may want to adjust your strategy on the fly. So the coaches this year are going to have to be talking to each other and making sure they understand what the strategy for the entire alliance is, and sometimes you may want to change that as what you see on the field. One of your bots dies, so you change your strategy, or one of their bots dies even, so you can change your strategy again. Understand what's happening out on the field.
And I basically even suggest when you come together as an alliance for your match, sit down, talk together, figure everything out, but set one coach as the shot caller. So, you don't want three coaches going, well, maybe we should do this, maybe that's burning time. You need one coach that are agreed upon, all three coaches. When this guy says, let's do this, we switch to that strategy. It's just having all these plans pre-done, knowing what you're going to do. We require our guys, when they come back from competition, or not competition, from the days of, from the day, back to the hotel, we watch footage. We sit there and we watch every footage. We look at our schedule and say, these are who we're playing with, these are who we're playing against. Let's watch all their footage. What can they do? If they're a catcher robot, but they've only caught one ball in 2 days, you may want to change your strategy, not rely on that as a catching robot. At the same time, if you're doing the 3 stages, your one robot takes the human player past the middle, then it goes to the middle, then it goes to the front. What do these 2 robots do in the meanwhile? Are they doing defensive moves? You don't want robots sitting there. You want to constantly do something. Because by the time this ball goes in, if it's an instant next ball release, that robot needs to be at the human player ready to go. So that robot goes straight in and he can go all the way. It's all about that cycle time. It's about getting, if it takes you 8 seconds to get from there to there, cut it down to 4. Figure it out, practice. This game is going to be very much strategy. It's going to be very heavy in it.
Speaking of cycle time, it's not just your cycle time.
Yep.
It's your opponent's cycle time. If you have a really good defensive bot, you can blow their cycle time to double what it normally was. You cut their score in half.
Right.
That defensive bot is worth a lot of points.
Absolutely.
I don't think even a mediocre defensive bot is going to slow you down.
You'd be shocked at how much a bump will do. You bump them and you stop them for 2 seconds. That's thrown their game off.
It throws them off. It throws them off.
Or you get in front of them and their shooter can't shoot over you. You just stay in front of them.
And that goes into the offensive robots. We tell our drivers, do not make contact. As soon as your bumpers touch the other team's bumpers, they've succeeded. They've added time. Even a scrape will slow you down. They're gonna make you go around. So we tell our drivers, don't even think about that. Do you think it's gonna make contact? Take a long route around. Drive smoothly, go around them.
Just the opposite of the defender.
The
better you are.
Absolutely.
I think Andrew brought up a good point earlier about waiting for the ball to cycle back in. That brings up the point that there's only one ball in play, so the intent is pretty obvious, which makes it a lot easier on defense this year. You generally know which robot you're going to be defending or how you're going to intercept a play. So that's really an important factor to consider, whether you're doing this by yourself or with other teams getting assists, right? You just have to make sure that you have constituency plans against defense spots. It's probably going to be hard to shoot over 60-inch tall robots, even from a normal distance, who aren't goalies. One factor that we've thought about is how wide these goals actually are. Maybe it's more beneficial to use the width rather than length. To be maybe, for those who might have mechanic, maybe strafing might be an ideal strategy for you. You can actually avoid the defense really easily just by strafing away and taking your shot.
Maybe put your shooter sideways. Raise your you know, maybe you drive up, slam into the driver's station, and now the defense can't get to you.
Right.
So there's a lot of, you got to think about what the other team is going to do and try to mitigate that. And another thing that and correct me if I'm probably not as well versed in the rules as you guys, but in autonomous mode, if you have 3 balls on the field and your alliance shoots 3 and misses all 3 and those 3 balls are left, you do not get a play ball until those 3s are off the field.
Correct.
So that could be a killer.
Yes.
And that could add 30 seconds to your cycle time if you only have 1 shooting robot, and now that robot's got to go pick up all 3 balls, shoot it over for 0 points.
No, you get scored the points.
No, I thought you don't get the scores for the time.
You don't get that honors and do
You can't get assist.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
You can't get assist, right?
Right. So probably the thing to do would be turn it into the logo as quick as possible and get in there.
Get them out of the way.
Well, but that kills time, that kills time, and you only got a point for it.
Right, to be honest with you, better not to have a ball.
Just driving. Stop playing because they don't get an assist bonus at all. It's time to they can get that because we can put your time. So guarding that ball get a cycle is worth a lot. And then you're 30 points down.
I would argue that if you can't shoot pretty much 100% in autonomous, you shouldn't be going for that high ball. You should be going for that low goal or just leaving the ball to be picked up.
Really dead reckoning and drive and just push the ball forward.
Yeah, because that low goal in autonomous is
still 11 points.
It's still a lot. Yeah,
It's still a lot of points.
If you get the hot goal, it's 16.
Yeah, it's 11 points because you go forward for 5, you push in for 1, and you get 5 for bonus on the times. Even a dead reckoning, just drive forward, you should be able to score a low goal. You get at least 11.
Yeah, 11 points. 11 points, yeah. Sure. I mean, that's pretty low-hanging fruit. I think that everybody's got to be attempting to score.
Low-hanging fruit, a lot of points.
A lot of points, exactly, yep.
You think it's going to be a benefit to specialize, like one robot toward only defensive, as if his team is split, there's 2 offensive ones and 1 defensive one playing defense the whole time, it doesn't even try to score? Is there a benefit to that?
There is a benefit, and that's again, we talked about the strategy. There is a benefit to that. The problem that happens in real life is you could do it, but then you don't know what's going to come up as an alliance. That's the problem. Now what happens if you get stuck with 2 defensive robot and 1 scoring robot? Then that match is basically gone,
You can almost always play defense.
Right, even with an offense robot, you can still play defense. Right. Just be in their way, somehow slow them down. That's still a defense. So, a pure defense robot, in my opinion, has a very limited use. To me, that's just waste of resources.
But then they said, like you said, if you can
Well, one thing we
speak
discussed, especially in championships, is that a pure defense robot will get you series, and it will be very well useful. But once you
every
start
second
getting
you add,
use,
that's adding to the
the
second.
usefulness
So that's
of
one
your
less
defense
score you
robot
get by the end of the
decreases sharply the farther you go up and up.
But you're not scoring.
Once you start getting into
You gotta weigh the
those division 4 finals and Einsteins, defense robots all disappear from the field. Because by that point, you want to have as many people as you can scoring. And you want to get as many points as you can, because the level of competition, once you get to Einstein, for example, can probably go around a defense spot.
I agree, yep.
Which points do they, as they advance, you might change your strategy?
Yep.
You play the game on the field.
I think the big thing was that last year the field was different. We had 2 huge pyramids in the middle of the field. You could use those lanes to just cut off robots. This year it's a wide open field, so unless you're playing lane defense, it's going to be very hard.
Very hard to stop, yeah.
Stopping robots.
I agree.
I think defense will become much more apparent in the last 30 seconds of the round because you have to think if you can slow that robot down or you can block them at the goal, you're potentially cutting 60 points off of that score by blocking that final shot that they're getting. And even though it might cut down your score throughout the rest of the match, it will be vitally important to remove their last goal from the game.
Game strategy decides that in order to play defense, you need to be able to remove more points than you could score.
Right.
If you do that, then defense is viable. If you can't, then it's not really worth it.
Right, and historically, like, you all see in the past, if I'm going to pick up my lines, I'm going to pick up the guys that can score. I can outscore the defense 9 out of 10 times, So you might start falling out of favor if that's all you can do. You might win your alliances games in few games, but when the time starts come to picking the alliance team, you would not really look at it that favorably versus somebody that can score and bring some, bring some bacon to me, Yeah.
If it's regional, first regional, these robots have all been to one regional, you'll probably be okay. But typically we see at championships, the best robots will start failing, so things will fatigue. And if you have 3 scoring robots and one goes out, well, you still have 2 scoring robots. If you select your alliance and you have 1 scoring and 2 defense, and your scoring robot takes a beating because that's who they're going to focus on, you're done.
At regional, it's a different strategy. At Worlds, it's going to be a different strategy. The strategy is going to change. Actually, game by game, it's going to change. You don't know what you're going to be stuck with. That's the hardest part. And that's why I think scouting is equally important. Knowing each other's team is important.
I think it's going to be like basketball. You're basically well-rounded. You can do a lot of things.
Yep.
They smart really well, and you have something you specialize in.
Yes.
And also, you're going to be able to use offensive blockers since you only got one robot that can actually score at a time. Maybe one of your alliance partners keeping the defensive bot away from you so you can't score. That's probably the only way you can score.
And going back to the strategy changing throughout the season for the teams that are going to multiple regionals and who end up going to championships, and teachers hate hearing this, the robot will change.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Expect to have revision B, revision C, revision D. Because you're always going to kind of find something, go, you know what? We could have saved some time by doing this. You're going to see something on another robot. Maybe it's a different material on your roller. You know what? Let's make that change. So expect to do some revisioning. Don't settle for it worked. Settle for we can take this robot to Einstein and be competitive with it.
I think one thing people tend to forget is to watch the score during the match. Usually it's all about score, outscore the other team, or get past the defense. But maybe if you look and you're ahead by, say, 50 points, maybe it's more beneficial to actually start playing defense. Get off the offense and just stop them from scoring. Keep your lead while you have it, and lest your robot break down in the middle.
It should probably be the coaches and not necessarily.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
That would be a coach call.
Right, but it's equally important, Is, all right, I can't score, so what can I do to stop them from scoring the time I've got, and to me, that's equivalent to scoring, it's equivalent to scoring.
All right, now that this is wrapping up, I think what we want to do is move it from more what the robot wants to do and how to do it. So what we've kind of come up with is we call it kind of standard, the basics, what everyone will be doing. So what we've seen a lot of in prototyping are catapults, and if you haven't seen the robot in 3 days, the Blitz videos, a lot of it is catapult based. You're seeing a lot of very similar designs.
Yep.
And so that's what we're going to be referring to as the basics. And then we've all had some out there ideas. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. But I think it's important to base your choices on what actually works based on the data you have. So it's easy to see something and think that'll never work. But I think it's very important to make choices based on data rather than your opinion of it. So that going through.
Sure. So, do we want to talk about actual basics? So, if you break down a robot, especially this year's, there are basically a few, like maybe 5 components to your robot. You have your drivetrain, you have your intake, and you have your shooter. Maybe you have a passer, maybe you have a catcher. That's 5 at most.
Pretty much it, yeah.
Blocker, right? So, 6. So a lot of intakes take on the idea of using a roller, right? But generally, you want to think about how you're going to intake and how you're going to integrate all of these systems together. I think that's the most important part of the design process. Sure, you can have this amazing intake. You can have this gripper that holds onto the ball no matter what, but how are you going to shoot it, right? Or can you make your shooter a variable shooter? Can you make it pass? Can you make it go over the truss and into the goal from different distances? So these are all important things to think about with the integration of your design. Yeah, a lot of, like Bo said, a lot of the different designs we've seen generally are coming out of robot in 3 days. And so it's looking to be either a catapult or some sort of a punch with a piston, springs, rod, something like that. Then from there, what's important is how you put it all together, how you cut down that cycle time, and how you make it all work.
Yeah, and on top of field placing robots in 3 days, if we face the facts, this is very similar to 2008's game. So just looking at Einstein 2008, you have 1114, who else? 2056, other big teams like that. So yeah, Canada. So looking back on that, you can kind of get some design aspects that may be applicable to this slightly different game piece.
Did you want to talk about different like shooting mechanisms and ideas people have about how to shoot or how to catch?
Yeah. Anybody else got any other ideas? Catapult?
That seems to be the popular way to go, you know.
With launching, the reason I think the catapults is the way people are going, and after talking to a couple of members on another team, catapult is about what? It's about weight. You know, so your mass stays the same on the ball. I don't know if you guys seen it, but we've seen that our balls will deflate after a little bit, and those balls get abused out there in the field. They're not going to be the same pressure. So having a plunger punch it is probably not a good idea because your ball's going to have a different type of compression. We've seen some prototypes from other teams. That's what they've been saying is 5 pounds of pressure is a huge swing in these balls. So, you know, think about stuff like that. The balls are not going to be always the same. We always think that every year, you know, last year this Frisbee was a little warm, this Frisbee was a little, you know, it's going to change. And I have a good feeling that they're going to change the balls in this. They did that in a couple of other games. The balls were popping a lot in the first 1-2 regions. So they started changing the balls in 3, 4, 5, 6. That was a Nerf ball. That was basketball, right?
Basketball.
And we saw that when they changed that, the density of the balls changed, and that was a huge factor. And there were teams with load cells measuring every ball coming into their robot and adjusting the speed of their shooters based on that. So, I mean, be a little flexible. The catapult is definitely a way to go, I think, because it's tried, it's tested. If your team wants to go a little bit more exotic, like I think some of these guys want to, build 2. You know, prototype 1 and build the other one. And maybe you develop it, and by that time, you have a bolt-on replacement. You can just bolt it on if the catapult doesn't work for you. But again, it's risk mitigation. Yeah. We've seen videos of catapults working. We've seen the robots in 3-day videos. That works. Maybe you go that way and optimize it.
Understand what your team is capable of building.
Yep. That's
rookie teams maybe can't build a catapult or can't build one that's going to be reliable. Anything that you got to put out on the field, you really want to have reliable and work every time. If that means that you can only score the low goal, but you can do it every time, and that you can pass between robots, that's a valuable robot still.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. One that tries to shoot for the high goal, but only makes it once in 4, may not be nearly as valuable to an alliance than one that can just drop it in the low goal. Okay, so understand what you're capable of building and build within what you can. Stretch a little bit, but don't really stretch too far, because at least not during competition. Do that all during the off season.
Right.
Okay, but during competition season, build what you can build that will work every time. That way, especially in this game, because this game requires all 3 robots to be working to really maximize your scores. So build within yourself and be honest with yourself as to what your robot is capable of. Be honest with your alliance partners what your robot is capable of. Don't tell them you can do 10 laps if you can't. You know?
And I like to bring this point up because this bit us real bad one year. Going back to design what you can build on your own. We had a sponsor, they were a sheet metal shop, they did really cool laser cut sheet metal, CNC bending. We designed that robot because our sponsor said, not a problem, we can get it to you guys. Send us the file, in 2 days we'll have all the parts for you. We got the parts the Friday before scrimmage. So we literally built a robot within 8 hours, I think. It came out like 8 o'clock at night. So we built that robot in 8 hours, and we had no time to shake the robot down to really test it. So, I mean, our robot, if you guys saw it yesterday, we went from pretty CNC bent sheet metal to 1 by 2 square tube. That is our robot, it's 1 by 2 square tube. Because we can go to Home Depot, we can go to metal supermarkets, pick it up, drill some holes in it, and call
He
it.
brings up a very good point, and I think a lot of the teams, need to understand that, anything that you can go down to the local hardware store and use, that's your best part. Because even if it breaks down in St. Louis, you can run down to Home Depot there and find something. But you got some exotic metal parts, you're out of luck. Any custom, we have never used any custom, I would stay away from it. Custom creates troubles, it's good. If you got a GM that's a sponsor, they can make 1 robot for you one every week, that's a different story. For most of the team, that's not an option,
If you build a custom part, build 3.
Yeah.
Okay?
Have the resources, if you have the resources to have spare, that's a different story, right?
That's it. I mean, if you only have 1 of something, I guarantee you it's going to break when it's out on the field.
And if it's the one part you don't have multiple of, that's what's gonna break.
That's how it works. I think talking about different design, you brought up a plunger design. These guys have tried the plunger design. Do you want to guys share your experience, pros, cons? So if anybody's thinking of doing a plunger, you can share it with them.
Just don't do it. What we found is basically with the same compression that we were using surgical tubing to pull back the arm for we call it a crossbow. With the same amount of tubing on a crossbow versus the catapult, it was completely unfeasible to try to get a motor with a gearbox or a tranny to work to get that same pull.
He was laying on the floor, on the ground, racing against the desk, pulling it back with everything he had.
The amount of force I had to put into it to get the same result as a catapult was.
It's just hard. So just sharing our experience, they spent a good bit of week working with a plunger design and finally abandoned it. It's like this time workable.
Yesterday we just took it apart.
Yesterday this is we're done. This is out. So we're back to the standard design. I think it's standard is tried, tested, and proven. To me, why you want to reinvent the wheel?
Well, one thing I told our team this year is we had the advantage in 2008 where we had a championship winning robot. So we looked at that robot. What can we use? What can we, copy for this year? But we didn't want to copy it verbatim. You can look at other robots. You can look at the 3-day stuff, but add your own twists. Do your own tests. Make your own improvements.
Let's you in on a secret. Sean, the other mentor, and I were really good friends with 118. And last year they released that promo video, our robot's done, the robot's climbing the pyramid, and everybody on the internet said that was going to be the greatest robot, it was going to win, blah, blah, blah. We called their mentors as soon as that video came out. I'm like, all right, what's the real story? That robot was 180 pounds, as you guys saw in that video. By the time they got it light enough to compete, did you see those guys climbing at all?
No.
Nope, not at all. So, you see these world champion robots, if you copy directly from 2008, those guys may have some insight and be like, man, we're never going to do that again.
Right.
I mean, we barely won that.
Exactly. I mean, that's, that's a valuable lesson.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I want to say, we don't see this much at Peachtree, but we've had the opportunity to go to other regionals. Make friends with the other teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really, really important for the mentors to make friends with the other team. I have a list of probably 10, 9 mentors I can call right now and go, what's your thoughts?
Yeah.
And then you create a collaboration. They send us video. 118 sent us a video of their catapult and said, here's our prototype. Here's the video. You guys figure out what you want from the video. And that creates a good relationship between teams. So build a relationship with these teams, especially the older teams, 118 and 64 and all those guys. They've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah.
A lot of their mentors have been doing this for a very long time. So building those relationships and, why to try to design something that's not going to work when your buddy has already done it?
Yeah.
He can guarantee you it's not going to work. That may save you a week.
Yeah, well, that's what these guys are saying. If anybody's looking at a plunger aspect, we would strongly discourage it. But if you want to spin your wheels and make it work, good luck. But there are some challenges. It's not like it can't be done, but there's some real world challenges. We don't have the luxury of time, and that's what the FRC is. That the time is premium.
He's talking about his collaboration, okay, where the two teams make each other better. Okay, yes, on the field you compete, and yes, you're going to compete hard against them, but this is collaboration. This is making your team better by making their team better as well.
Absolutely. And it's opened doors for us where our plasma cutter went down, and we had no way of getting these, and no sponsor could do it, and nobody local could do it. We called up Texas Torque in Texas and said, we're in a bind, guys, and they were able to call their sponsor and get our parts run for us and ship it. So there's, work together. There's some negativity on Chief Delphi of, you're not trying to build identical robots.
No.
That takes the fun out of it. But it's really cool to see, 1477 and us collaborated for the last 3 years now. And we don't share designs. We don't go, here's our robot, here's the SolidWorks file, here you go. We'll talk, we'll have discussions. And they'll have these ideas, we'll have these ideas, but it's really cool when you have a huge bank of ideas and when 4 teams come out with extremely similar robots. They all have their different places, they all did it a different way, but the robot's functionality is very similar. And that's when I think that's when you know that you picked the design that, 5 teams have said that's the design to go with. You picked a pretty good design.
Yeah.
And it's validation. And, for us, the elevator, we did it a different way than 1477 did it. We did it a different way than a lot of other teams did it. So it's not, don't think of it as cheap. Don't think of it as that. Think of it, like he said, you're trying to help each other. Trying to help each other get better at it. In the spirit of diversity, the spirit of trying to make, I don't think it's not a failure when your robot doesn't work, but it doesn't help. It's awesome for your robot to just work. So why not help that out a little bit by taking some time for the mentors, find some other teams, go out to dinner together after competition, talk with each other. What have they done? Why are they successful? So I think that's a really big key is the social aspect at first. A lot of teams don't do.
And I think going back to that standardization kind of idea where a lot of robots look the same, I think this is a kind of special year almost where VexPro and AnyMark have a lot of almost kind of complete packages with the Versa blocks, what else? The gears, all of their gears. So I think it's really neat how, just like you see in like automotive racing even, where you'll buy a lot of teams will buy the same stuff and have very similar designs and concepts. And then a lot of what makes you win is in the smaller things like drivers, tuning, things like that.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting to see kind of that shift to more standard parts.
You're going to see a lot of identical robots this year.
Yes.
You're going to see a lot of robot and 3D robots.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
You're going to see a lot of
there's only very few sound ways to do this thing, That's why you're going to see a lot of things going to look very similar. But like he pointed out, you know, two cars, they're gonna look the same, but they drive differently. You know, it depends on the driver. And frankly, I think one of the things that you're gonna find out in this year's competition, the drivers that had more practices are gonna be key. I mean, we all of us struggle for drive time, you know. And being in so many competitions, a lot of times I see a robot, and it's not the robot to me that's really important, but I could tell this driver has a lot of practice. The moving, the maneuver, the scoring, it's like, wow, you had a lot of time to practice. And you know, necessarily, you could have a much better robot than that, but you're not being able to do what he's doing, but this has a lot of practice time.
And for this year, I think it's going to be practice with other robots on.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
That's why when we got this space, we said, they asked us to actually store the field here first. They said, well, why don't we store it in a usable configuration?
Right.
It's like, hey, that's what we want to do with a couple of events that we've got coming up, is get people over here with robots and drive them around and figure out the strategy for you.
And doesn't matter whatever stage you might be, you know, I think we got to meet consistently every often, and when we do that first practice, we're going to learn things from each other. We're going to improve. Hey, you know, this cool design, I mean, just, you know, you're going to tweak, you're going to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, and it's going to help overall all of these teams, you know.
Yeah, and I say and threaten our guys, I want a robot in 3 weeks. You need to strive for a 3-week robot, because like I said, I come from a racing background. When we don't get our car done until the day before it's test time,
it's useless.
Go in there and they're cold.
It's useless. Yes.
Yeah. So you know, it goes back. You know, we try to go for a 6-month race car. Never happens, but you know, if you can get your driver's time in there and they really know that robot, and that robot's been shaken down, they know it's reliable. This is not going to break them. You don't have to worry about that. That's the way to go. I believe this has happened. Didn't, just don't say anything. I believe we've already done our driver trials, especially for the driver itself. And the plan is, as soon as our drivetrain is ready, that driver will take, you know, not the whole build time, but maybe an hour, take the robot and just drive it.
Right.
Just get used to it, figure out how it works. And he can go to his programmers. We're playing with curves this year. How does the joystick compare to what the robot is actually doing? You want an exponential curve, you want it flat. And a lot of teams use paint dry, but especially in this game, I think a faster robot is more useful than a pushing power robot. So we're going to try and, we call it cheesy poop drive, because cheesy poop has this available where one joystick is throttle and the other joystick is direction. According to them and all their research and white papers, if you have a fast robot, tank is not the way to go. You got to go cheesy poop drive. So, you know, it just, have a robot done earlier, it gives you the opportunity to test this instead of, you know, you're at regional, you're in the qualification, or not qualification, you're in the settings, you know, man, I really want to try that cheesy food drum. That is not the time to do it. It is time to do it before the robot ever leaves. And I know it's not very feasible for a lot of teams to build 2 robots, but I highly recommend building 2 robots. Even if the second robot isn't a fully functional robot, you just have to drive this. Getting your drivers just that extra opportunity. Maybe just take your old robot and give them the field and let them go for it. We'll give them some experience out there and then put it in that workplace. So, you know, absolutely, experiences. Testing the robot is
It's a key. It really is a key, and that's what's going to separate the good teams from the well designers as well tested teams.
We're pretty much out of time, so if you got any just quick questions or closing thoughts, bring that down. No? All right, cool. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.